Hello everybody and welcome along to PSGL Season 32, round number 5, here at the Principality of Monte Carlo for the Monaco Grand Prix. I'm sure it's going to be an exciting one because it requires a lot of skill tonight. My name is GeForce and joining me once again for the top tier on PlayStation, we got Mr. Aidan Carter. Aidan, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you, Jess. Thank you very much for asking. I hope you're doing well as well. Of course, mentioned that you've just picked up COVID recently, so fair play to you for jumping in the commentary box with that. If I had COVID, I probably wouldn't be doing the same, so you're a lot stronger than I am. But yeah, looking forward to the race around the Principality tonight. I think as many people would have seen in the previous stream that we had last week with James in, I did mention a couple of times that Monaco is one of my favourite tracks to drive. It's maybe not the most exhilarating track in the world to watch, I think real life and league racing wise as well, but there's something very special about it. It is definitely one of it is the jewel in the crown really for Formula 1, isn't it? So it's definitely something special, and it's unique for PSGL as well because we don't often race here, so it's a new challenge. It's definitely going to be the most unique challenge of the season, and hopefully it brings up a bit of a surprise result.
I always like commentating on Monaco for a variety of different reasons, but the one battle that stroked to mind was Casper in one of the esports cup when he was doing some nice battles around the outside into the first corner, Sandoval, and he went side by side for absolutely ages, was on brand new tyres and went on to win that race that day as well. So many legends have won here in Monaco in the past, and we're looking for some people technically to add their name into the history books. We haven't been in Monaco for a long time, so it should be interesting. Last week though, we were in Canada and we saw Rudy take his second win of the season, but the results you saw last week weren't exactly the same to what we saw with the stewards because they were quite busy, weren't they?
Yeah, really well. I'll take you through them just now, just to say what the results were. But yeah, Rudy still keeps the win from last week and his second win of the season, first repeat winner of the season as well. So great start to the championship it's been for Rudy this season. Second place to Legend this time around. You would have noticed that Marlon did pick up second place last time out with a really good recovery drive from an early spin in that race. But unfortunately, he was given a 3-second time penalty for a collision, I believe, with Legend on the penultimate lap with Ogiano. It was on the penultimate lap of the race, so he's unfortunately lost that second place. Legend has inherited that second place finish from him, and Ogiano moves up to the podium because along with a penalty for Marlon, who drops to fourth, both AlphaTauris, who managed to score two top 5 finishes in Ray and Asicone finishing 4th and 5th, they've also received penalties for other incidents after the race. I believe Ray's penalty came from an incident in Zandvoort where the time penalty was added on to this race, which is why Marlon, even with a 3-second penalty for a collision, still ends up 4th in the race. So good result from Marlon, best result of the season so far. After Marlon, P5 goes to Ray in the AlphaTauri for his best result of the season so far. Asicone picks up the next position there in 6th place. 7th goes to Markados, who had a penalty removed, so he's moved into the points. He was originally 12th before that. First point scoring of the season for Frankie in P8. He gets 3 points on the board for McLaren. 2 points as well for Nando, who finishes 9th. His second point scoring finish in a row for the Alfa Romeo team. And another new point scorer for the season in Nikita picked up the final point for the previous round in Canada in 10th position. So yeah, it's fair to say anybody that did watch the stream last week for Canada and saw the results will maybe not remember what happened, purely because so much happened, and clearly so much happened in the stewards room as well, because the results are completely different to what we had at the end of the race about 6 days and 23 hours ago.
Yeah, exactly. Quite a lot to take in, actually. I was watching it back the day after, and I can't believe I missed it. I always seem to miss the races with good action, but I'd just like to say thank you to James for filling in for me last week whilst I was doing some other commitments. So thank you very much. And obviously he was doing F2 this week as well, so that's great to see as well. And what that does with the standings, it brings Rudy extending his gap in the top of the championship on 46 points, Legend in second on 34, and it's 1 point between himself and Rowan in P3, which just shows how strong of a season Rowan has actually had in PSGL PSF1. Kazizal in 4th place with 24 points. We've got Ascom on 21, Tom on 20 points. No Farby tonight, I believe. His first missed race in quite a while, actually. So plenty of opportunities for the likes of Marlon or Giano and Markados to really jump up the standings because they're 4 points adrift of some of these guys as well. And constructors, well, like last week, McLaren are still leading the way but not by much though. 49 points to Ferrari's 44 points. Now we got Aston Martin on 42 in third, AlphaTauri in fourth on 28, Williams in with 26 joint with Mercedes, and we got Alpine with 24, Red Bull on 19 points in eighth. But there's two teams that got to do a lot better in these next few races leading up to the Christmas break. Alfa Romeo and Haas F1, their drivers not doing as well this season as all the other teams on the grid, but plenty of opportunities to make amends, especially as they want to do well before we head into 2023.
Yeah, they really want to do well. As like you say, they kind of got some points on the board a couple of rounds ago, especially Alfa Romeo team. They didn't score points at all in the first two rounds, and Nando's been able to get 2-point scoring finishes on the board, but they've not quite been at the top, at the sharp end, as we've seen so many other teams. And yeah, we've kind of had the top kind of 6 places in race positions kind of dominated by the same people so far this season, really, haven't we? It's kind of been a lot of the same drivers at the front, especially Rudy, who's been on the podium 3 races out of 4 now. And it's crazy to think we're now coming into the 5th round of the season, and the preseason championship favourite, who was Legend in the Ferrari, still yet to win a race. But if the interviews from last week were anything to go by, this will be a track that Legend could get that first win of the season on. And I think for Ferrari as a team as well, they'll be very happy that Oggiano has finally been able to resolve those brake pedal issues, because he had such a strong race last time out in Canada, led for around half of the race. Unfortunately, didn't quite get the result they would have wanted, but still a P3 on their return, and that is great for them and the manufacturers as well, of course, as they close in on McLaren, who are still kind of relying solely on Rudy's points at the moment. So a lot to look out for tonight, as we mentioned earlier on, constructors and drivers wise. And yeah, got to look to Kazizel and Rowan for a bit of a comeback now. They both didn't score in Canada last time out, and they dropped down the championship because of it. So tonight is the night where they need to kind of bounce back.
Yes, a few other people that will need to bounce back as well are the likes of Louis and the Warp. They're the only 2 drivers out of the full-time grid to not score a point this season, with the Warp DNFing in every single race that they've taken part in this season. Louis came close to being the points on several occasions, both in round number 2 in Bahrain and last time out in Canada, but just didn't quite materialise for him, unfortunately. But again, maybe this could be the day where he can get his first point of the season. I'm trying to see who could be the first person on a lap. I believe that is at Facecam, heading towards the casino section as well. And this is very, very tight, this track. It's very easy to do it in a Formula E car, because obviously the cars are a lot smaller as well. They can get quite more overtakes, but with the F122 hybrid cars, it's a lot bigger as well, very, very hard to do some overtakes. So there's going to be a lot of brave, I think, moves from some people if they want to do well, especially if it happens to be in the rain, especially I think in 96 as well. There was quite a few chaos there as well, and there was also in the 1970s, 1980s, there was pretty much, if you were in the top half of the grid, basically they were retired. Nobody would want to win that race, technically, pretty much. But Asacombe takes the swimming pool section very well indeed. The man who likes to do well in qualifying, as he passed through Raskas into Anthony Nose right now as he heads towards the final corner. It's a very short lap, so you can get as many laps as you possibly can around here, and it's the fastest lap time on the board so far with a 109.5. His teammate Ray just came across the line with a 109.885. Then we got the Haas team of Chiquita, I believe, up to the line, and we got Louis there with a 109.4, so time's very close already. Rudy in 4th, Jensen 5th, Legend in 109.1 at the moment, so definitely he's backing his statement that he said last week in the interview, saying that he wants to do well around this track. He's good around this track. Marlon as well, backing up his statement with a P2 as well, and Oggiano in P3. So at the moment, Aiden, it's a Ferrari 1-3, but still lots of time to be found, and still early on in the session, so anything can happen.
Yeah, anything can happen, like you say, and there's such a small margin for error that a slight mistake can cost you big time around here. So you can find a lot of time on your laps just watching Nemaya in the Red Bull coming up towards the line, seeing what they can do. And they go just behind Legend on a 1 minute 9.1, 13,000 slower. But it's a Ferrari 1-4, and they are split by the Red Bulls. But as I say that, Tom goes in between the 2 Red Bulls and puts his Mercedes 3rd on the grid at the moment. So it's kind of almost your regular people at the top of the timesheets at the end of the first runs in qualifying. We've got Legend on the provisional pole, Nemaya again strong in qualifying. Both Red Bulls have been strong in qualifying all season long, and they're still backing that up even around the streets of Monaco. Tom up there as well. Tom's not had a good run of form recently. I would say he's definitely had the pace, not had the luck to go with it though recently, as Tom currently P6 in the standings, picked up a P3 in Zandvoort, but that's been his only podium finish so far this season, of course, involved in that incident that caused Asacom to pick up a race ban in the Bahrain race. So yeah, Tom's not had the luck, so he will definitely want things to go his way tonight, want things to swing in his direction. And yeah, shout out to Louis. Good lap on the board to start off the session for Louis there for in the Alpine team. Like you said, one of the only drivers not to score so far this season, has really had a rough time of it, and has kind of been the one making the bizarre strategy calls to try and do something a little bit different. So yeah, nice to see him a bit further up the front of the field. Maybe this is a track that would suit him a bit more than others that we've seen so far this season.
Yes, and it is quite a short lap as well, like I was saying earlier on as well. So some people may like the challenge of being close to the barriers and being like so demanding for the drivers as well, and just so you have a lot of adrenaline around it, racing around here as well, because if you just wait one small mistake, you're in the wall and you're out of the race. And especially with the damage settings that they have at PSGL as well, it is very, very important indeed. We already see quite a few retirements already in the F2 tier that just happened straight up pretty much before us, so I have a feeling we could see the same here. But these are the top tier drivers on PlayStation, so they would have put a little bit more practice in, a lot more effort, because there's certain drivers that need to get their season off to a good start. Marcos also is one of those drivers who hasn't set a lap yet. He's going through Sandervot now. We'll see what he can do in the warp as well. He has not got his session to a great start because he's invalidated his second run, so he'll be going into the pits, unfortunately. But interesting fact about Monaco: first use in Formula 1 back in 1950. Juan Manuel Fangio won the first ever Monaco race, and the last ever winner here was Sergio Perez this season as well, which was quite a memorable moment as well. And there was a tradition that the Red Bull drivers who won a race, all of their team will go in the pool as well. We saw that with like Daniel Ricciardo, we saw that with Max Verstappen as well. Could we see that with Nemaya maybe if he wins a race, or Marlon potentially? We shall see. But we've got a lot of traffic, by the way, heading past Tabat and into the swimming pool section, so a lot of people are very keen to get their laps in early doors, so they don't have to worry about the final part of the session. Because we've seen in the last few races this season, it tends to be the middle half of the session where the laps come in.
Yeah, that's kind of been the theme all season long, as Marcos goes P10 with their first run in the session, but they did clip the inside wall in the second part of the swimming pool chicane, so there's definitely more time, at least in the final sector, for the Williams driver. But yeah, like you say, we've seen it all season long where drivers are pretty much at their peak in performance straight away in qualifying, and then they obviously have a good run in their second run, and then for their final run in qualifying, they kind of throw everything at it, and if it doesn't pay off, then it doesn't pay off. And if they do benefit from it, they're at their pace ceiling already, so they don't actually find that much time. So it's kind of been the way of things all season long. I think this is one of those tracks where we potentially won't see that. You do have to kind of build your confidence in with this circuit as you go around, especially if you've not done enough practice yet. But we will see, I'm sure, plenty of drivers picking up a little bit more speed as the session goes on. I'm just trying to see who is on a lap at the moment. Nawarpa's gone again on the same set of soft compound tyres, so there is enough fuel to be able to do 2 runs around this track, and it's a pretty decent middle sector from Nawarp. It's kind of similar to what Marcos was doing, but he just misses the apex there as Legend crosses the line to be the first driver into the 1:08 with a 1:08.9. That is a brilliant lap time from Legend. We'll see if any of the Red Bulls can respond, and the Warp has a massive snap of oversteer out of the final corner. Anthony knows, and that is going to ruin the lap for the Warp. Unfortunately crosses the line only in 11 flat, so not representative at all, sadly. I'm just trying to see who's further along on a lap. Marlon coming towards the end of a run in the Red Bull is a 10th up, but he also makes a mistake through Anthony knows and doesn't quite get the run out of the corner that they would have wanted. Crosses the line, just slightly improving, goes ahead of Tom, but there's still more time on the board for the Red Bull driver. And speaking of Tom, Tom is slightly up in the first sector as well. Ogiano is way down on their time. They're going for a run just now, so we're just trying to see who else is on a lap at the moment. I don't think anybody really that is that close to an end of a lap at the moment. Brock is coming to the end of a lap, but Brock's first lap really wasn't representative, and he's not looking all that confident on track at the moment in comparison to his teammate. Crosses the line and kind of proves the point. Only P16 and still in the 1:10s.
Yes, I think it's about 3 or 4 drivers that are not quite in the threshold we would expect at this stage in qualifying, and I have to say Legend has set a high benchmark, but Lemire, without that mistake, he could have been up there. He could have been in the 108s too, so he's still got some time to find as well as he goes on his outlap as well. He's going very fast on his outlap, so I'm guessing he wants to get there as quickly as he possibly can to set the benchmark, set the pressure potentially as well. That's maybe why a lot of people are going early, because they don't like going late. Once they see their rivals setting quicker lap times, they're thinking, hang on, there's too much pressure, and sometimes they can overdrive the car, and sometimes that's when the mistakes happen, so that's probably why some of them are potentially gone into a wall then as well. So our current standings at the moment in terms of qualifying: Legend on pole, we've got Lemire in second, Marlon in third, so the 2 Red Bulls doing well, and Louis as well doing particularly well, as well as Nando too, but the drivers who need to keep an eye on are not doing quite as well. Marcos down in 13th, Ray down in 12th, Rudy, our championship leader, only down in 11th spot right now, and he's got to find at least a second to potentially get into pole position, which is not ideal, and it's a track where you can't overtake as much, so really the higher you get around here, the better. It's like Zandvoort really in a way as well, but Zandvoort you can potentially overtake more in a way, and it only took a sprinkle of rain to really change things, as we've got some of the ones near the back starting their runs now, the likes of Elia down in 50th position right now, managing to score some decent points this season, but surely in that Haas car, nearing the bottom of the standings, last in the standings, he would definitely want to be high. I believe he's the only one to score points for his team this season, so I'm sure he wants his teammate to back him up a little bit as he heads towards the tunnel section. Now, this was the section, by the way, where Damon Hill lost his engine back in 1996. It looked set for him to win the race, but he didn't, and we saw an unlikely victory from Olivier Panis that year, who came from 14th, and unfortunately the Haas driver has invalidated his run through the tunnel section, as I said that, so that is commentator's curse for me. Jensen did not set a representative lap time, as he's going to go again. Marcos, I believe, is on his run. I think most people are going on runs at the moment. We'll see who's the furthest on a run. Might be Tom, potentially. No, Tom's going again. I think most people are just going on their penultimate runs right now, unless you're Chiquita. Oh, that was so close to invalidation there again. Almost hitting that barrier there as you head past the Wimbledon section, but he took Anthony Node. Ooh, a bit squirmy there, but again, it's very challenging that part of the circuit, and 110.4, so he's struggling to get into the 109s once again, but he has improved on his lap time. So with 5 minutes left to go, Legend's still out on top.
Yeah, Legend on top. Assacomb's now just gone into P2 in the AlphaTauri, so a good lap there from Assacomb. Found nearly 4/10 on their previous best run, as Nemire's put it in the wall.
Ooh.
Oh dear. Oh dear. He was running for a second run on that same set of softs. He just invalidated, and now he's binned it in the middle part of the swimming pool section. So that is his qualifying over and done with. That is not great for Nemire. We'll have to see how far down the field he now potentially could drop. He's about to lose a place to Tom here, because Tom is on a very, very good lap. He could potentially just pip Legend to pole position here when he crosses the line. We'll see what he can do as he runs up towards the line, crosses the line, and he does just get there by 0.5 of a second, and Legend hasn't been able to improve on their latest run so far. So Tom now goes to the top of the timesheets with a really, really strong lap there. Marlon is on a lap as well, just coming through the second sector split. He's about 1/10 up, so he could now demote his Red Bull teammate down another place as well. And Kazizel is also on a lap just a bit further down the road. So, yeah, Nemire, costly mistake at a costly point in the session, just as people are starting to get the best out of their qualifying sessions. Here comes Marlon to the line, crosses the line, and it's a good final sector, and actually manages to go P3 and just ahead of Assacomb. As now Louis goes to the top of the timesheets on a 1:08 8.8. Wow, Louis really in the game tonight, isn't he? That's way higher than we've seen him all season long. We thought the first one was good, but that lap there is incredibly strong from Louis. Really, really strong lap time, and his teammate unfortunately was improving, but has dived into the pit lane. But
he
yeah, we were saying that, we were going to say that. I was going to say that Monaco, we were expecting a surprise result, or a surprise driver to be at the front of the field. I don't think I was quite expecting it to be Louis, to be honest, but hey-ho, it's one of those tracks that brings out the best in some drivers, and it seems to be bringing out the best in Louis at the moment.
Yeah, it is. Maybe he saw himself at the bottom of the standings and he thinks, you know what, I don't want to be bottom of the standings anymore. I want to get a decent result. I want to surprise everyone today, and Louis just set a marker saying, beat that. really, to be honest. But to be honest, Tom and Legend could beat that if they didn't make mistakes. They could have been a lot more perfect in their laps as well. So, and even the last Monaco race I ever commentated on, Tom got pole position against most of these drivers on this grid. So I'm expecting Tom to beat him, maybe Legend as well. So we're going to see, I think, a competitive top half of this F1 grid in Monaco, which is very, very exciting. So grab your popcorn, because I'm very excited for the final half of this qualifying section. I think this is the most exciting thing about Monaco, really, is qualifying, due to the short lap that these drivers can produce and how thrilling it is to drive around it. In qualifying, I love driving around it. In the race, I don't, because I usually end up putting it in the wall. But we got Nando and Asakome out on laps early. Same with the likes of Brott, Frankie, Yukita as well, and I think we've got a lot of traffic heading towards to bat now, so hopefully people will go the gentleman's agreement and move out the way. Obviously only one driver can't take part at the moment due to the mire forbidding it near the swimming pool section, but everyone else is going to go out for one final time. We could see maybe Nando put it on pole position. We could see the lights in the warp. You never know. Alfa Romeo have not scored many points this season, so now they could be their time to shine right now as Nando now heads towards turn number 1. I think we got Rowan, who's about to, well, he's on his outlap at the moment. Everyone else, pretty much a lot of people are on track at the moment, unless you're Marcos, Brock or Marlon, but they'll be going on laps in at just a few moments time. And I expect Louis will go out there as well, because I don't think Louis wants anyone to beat his lap time, but I think it's going to be tough at the moment. Oh, Yukita's now out of the session. He bins it. Now, where's that? That, I think, is at the Casino Square. So we'll go on board with Asakome now, and that's to the left-hand side as well. So he hit the barrier, clipped the wall, and that's his qualifying done and dusted. So we now got 2 retirements, and with Yukita now being last on the grid, with the slowest time, he's definitely now going to be starting last on the grid. But I just did see on the bottom on my screen, we do have a reserve joining who's filling in for Fabi, and that's Service, I believe, who's going to be in the Williams. So we will have a full 20 car grid, which is great to see. Oh, Asakome was on a good lap, and he binned it at the end of the tunnel section, unfortunately. So will he have a chance to go again? I don't know, but that's compromised his lap time so much. His softs are going to be dead. That is not good for the man who I was expecting to be the contenders for pole today.
Yeah, it's such a shame. Hopefully he's not picked up any damage. He could go for another run. He has the time. It's whether he has the ERS or whether the car is clean or not to complete that other run. But we'll wait and see. I'm just looking at Legend at the moment, who's just started their final run, but hasn't found any time in the first sector on this lap at the moment. So not found anything so far. We are seeing a little bit of a split, even with Nemaya crashing out of the session. The top 6 are a bit separated from the rest of the field. There's a nearly 2/10 gap between 6th and 7th at the moment. The Kazizel is going to try and bring that gap down. Just keeping on board with Legend through the second sector split. Has he been able to find any more time? He's 7/100ths of a second up, but at the moment that's not quite enough to take pole. Oh, and there's a big crash there. I think he maybe got a little bit spooked by the Warps car being in the wall at the end of the swimming pool section, and Legend had to back out of the run, and he's not got enough time left, I think, to get to the line to go for another run. And that's it. That is Legend's qualifying over and done with. And at the same time, yeah, Tom spins as well, coming out of the Nouvelle Chicane. Just caught that as well. So at the moment, Louis potentially could hold on to pole here. Marlon's on a lap. Can Marlon maybe deny pole position here and get his second pole in a row? Potentially, second pole of the season, sorry. Can he get it here? He got it in Zandvoort. Can he get it in Monaco? He's coming up to the line. Is he going to be able to steal pole away?
No.
No, he's not. He only improves by 5,000, stays P4. Kazizel's managed to go P5 in the other Alpine as well. Louis on a lap, and Louis improved in the first sector. So while everybody else is crashing around him, Louis is finding yet more time at the moment. We'll see him in the middle sector if he finds any more. No, he's down on his time now. He's made a mistake in the middle sector. But by the looks of things, it doesn't... Yeah, invalidated his time, but everybody's crashing, trying to find the best lap at the end of the session. And I think that's pretty much everybody's lap done. I think the only other driver at the moment on a lap is Ogiano down in 11th, but he's down on his time. So, as per usual, it's a bit of a chaotic and not a chaotic end to the session where not many people gain a lot of time. And Louis is our shock pole position.
Well, you did say there would be surprises in Monaco this evening from the stream last week, and you got that prediction right, but I didn't think it's going to be Louis either. I thought it was going to be the likes of Ray or Frankie potentially, but no, Louis on pole position, his first pole I believe in PSF1. I don't think he ever got a pole in F2 as well, so I think it's his first pole in PSGL in a long time. I don't think he's had pole ever, so well done to him as well. We haven't seen many people convert poles to wins this season, but it's a track where statistically poles can be converted to wins more lightly as long as he doesn't bin it, which is easier said than done. But look at the gap between Louis and Tom. If Tom did not bin it by that tunnel section, he would have got pole. He was up before he crashed in that section, which was absolutely cutting for him. So we'll go through your order then. We got Louis, Tom, Legend, Marlon, Kazizel, Asacom, Namaya, Ray, Rudy, and Elia. Then we got Ogiano, Jensen, Nando, Frankie, Rowan, Marcados, Nawart, Brock, and Jakita for the last set of time. And like I said, service is filling in for Fabi tonight in that Williams car. And before we head to the race, let's have a quick word from our sponsor, GT Omega. We will see you in 30 seconds. Hello everybody and welcome back to PSGL PSF1 round number 5 around Monaco, and we saw a shot pole position just now of Louis in the Alpine, which was great to see. And there was a lot of drivers, like we were saying earlier, that struggled on their final runs, and it was really the middle runs that did it as well. And luckily for the drivers and for ourselves, it is a nice sunny day in the Principalities of Monte Carlo. Not like real life, where in real life was absolutely chucking it down and it took a long time to figure out whether they were going to race or not. Luckily, we're going to get underway soon as the timer is ticking down as well. A lot of drivers will need to prove themselves, and maybe this could be Louis' day. Maybe this could be Louis' chance to maybe get a win before Legend, potentially as well. And that would maybe could wake Legend up. Maybe the ones who had a shocking qualifying can have a very good race and had some very, very good moves potentially as well. We'll have to wait and see. We are about to get underway. No formation lap, remember. So it will be the 5 red lights coming up on your screen right now. We've got Louis on the left, Tom on the right. Who's going to get a decent start heading into turn 1? We're going to find out right now. His lights out and away we go. And it looks like Louis has got a good start from everybody heading towards Sandebot. And Tom keeping behind in P2 at the moment. Sandebot is very, very key to make sure they avoid crashes. Looking all clean and dandy so far. Service up into P18 as well. The back two having a decent start as well, but looks like that they're all trying to be very, very cautious on the opening lap. So I won't be surprised if they go all guns a-blazing in the next lap or two, as we got Nawart and Brock going side by side into Mirabeau, the hairpin. Look at how tight this hairpin is at the moment, but I think they're just all keeping it stable at the moment. We saw one of the Alfa Romeos getting a bit squirmy, I think, in the background as well. I think one of them is Ghost as well. We've got Ogiano going side by side with the Haas driver, and he's up into P10 as well. We've got the Red Bulls that dropped down a few positions. Legend staying in P3 at the moment. But we're looking at the tyre compound choices. Louis has gone for the hards, so I was expecting him to pretty much be overtaken by the medium runners, but no can do at the moment. Louis is managing to hold his own on a set of the hard tyres, and the other drivers on the hards seem to be struggling. So it seems to me putting it on pole was the best option for him, because he's absolutely killing it with the pace right now.
Yeah, I'm very surprised that Louis is the only one of our leading runners that is on that hard compound tyre. I think around here, the hard medium is definitely the preferred strategy, and if you can get the track position on the hard compound tyres, you could just sail off into the distance. And especially when the medium tyres get towards the end of their life, of course, with the tyre wear and tyre temperatures as they are on this game, the pace fall off in a set of medium compound tyres is pretty big, especially because you're just trying more than anything else to keep the car out of the wall more than anything else. So if the fact that Lewis has been able to keep the lead in that short run to turn 1 is really crucial for his race, and if he could potentially in the next 10 laps or so just disappear up the road. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he can perform on those hard compound tyres and if he can keep a sustained gap. The other driver that's in a significant position on those hards is Rudy, our championship leader in P9, surrounded by a sea of medium runners. He's on the hards trying something different as well, which is great to see. Just a note as well on those first lap incidents, Markadol's picked up damage on the first corner, Surface picked it up at the Lowe's hairpin along with Nikita as well, so they've dropped down after a pit stop, and there was some slight contact at the first corner between Asacombe and Marlon, I believe, for P5, where Asacombe managed to get the move done on the Red Bull driver. I don't think either of them have picked up any damage though by the looks of things. They've gotten away with it. Asacombe is up a position as a result, and Louis on the hard compound tyres, fastest lap of the race so far. DRS is enabled, and this is probably the only track we'll see on this calendar where DRS training is not a thing, because you only have the one DRS straight, and it's really not that long at all. It's one of the shortest DRS straights you will see in Formula 1, if not the shortest. So Louis here, if he can break DRS, is going to be laughing. He is looking really strong. And already breaking it. And I think one driver that's already noticing that break and is trying to get a move on is Legend. Legend is pushing Tom through the Lowe's hairpin at the moment.
Yep, he is. He's very keen to get past him at the moment. He almost got past in the casino section, but Tom managed to close the door quite nicely indeed as well. And this is also a track where you can save a lot of VRS as well, just by being stuck behind the likes of Tom in front as well. And you can only use it really in the key overtaking opportunities and for the DRS as well. Sometimes the DRS around here is meaningless as well, because it's quite narrow on the run to turn 1. So if you don't nail that, there's really no point in using the ERS as well. Maybe some people can dive and move into Rascas potentially, but they will lose the DRS going into the start-finish straight, so there's no point going for a move there. So we'll see how Legend uses the battery. Used a little bit, but deciding to back off the move for now, so that's why he's not using his overtake at the moment. But just being stuck in this DRS trade is not helping at all, and that's really going to help Louis in his quest up front. So far, everyone else is around about 6-7 tenths behind each other in this long train. The only exception are the likes of Service, Markados and Nikita that have gone into the pit lane. The hard runners not having a good time at all, unless you're Rudy or Louis. All the other hard runners have either had to pit or are struggling down in 15th, 16th and 17th place. I have to say Ray is having a good race so far, but he's struggling up behind as well. Not much happening at the moment, but we will start to see some things happening soon, as Markados has retired in the pit lane, it looks like. So unfortunately, that's his race done and dusted. I believe it's his first race where he hasn't scored any points, so that's unfortunate for him. That ends his point scoring streak. But for everybody else, is the hammer down and to keep going and see what the rest of the race brings. But Legend has got to play the patient game. He's using his ERS once again then. Could this be the chance where he goes into turn 1? No, he does not. Again, can't get past. It's just about patience at this early stage of the race.
Yeah, definitely about patience, and this track is all about trying to gain track position on strategy. That's how you're going to make the overtakes around this track, unless other drivers are making mistakes. But at the moment, this early on, we're not seeing that. One thing we are seeing is Marlon pushing the back of the AlphaTauri of Asacombe for P5 here. He's really trying to get a move done on the AlphaTauri if he can find a way through. He's just, the AlphaTauri of Asacombe, just starting to lose touch with Kazizel in front, who in turn is just starting to lose touch with our top 3. As Tom there was ghosted. I think Tom potentially just hit the wall a little bit coming through Portier, so he's made a little bit of an error there. Looks like he's got away with it, but he was ghosted for a second, so that suggests he did make hard contact with the wall at some point in that Lowe's Portier section of the circuit. So that's going to be one thing to note as well going forward if we do see that. But field is just starting to spread out that little bit, because Kazizel's not quite got the pace of the drivers in front at the moment, and it's just teetering on the edge of losing DRS, but isn't really under any threat from behind either. And we're just seeing as well Elia in P11 starting to lose touch with the top 10 now, is just falling back a little bit, and has just clobbered the wall as well coming out the second part of the swimming pool chicane. So that is going to be potentially some damage on the side of that Haas car if he did hit it hard enough. So Louis did build the gap. Now Louis not building the gap anymore, and Tom and Legend seem to have caught back up. But again, with the tyres that Louis is on, he doesn't really need to be making that much of a gap at the moment because he's on the tyres that will last that little bit longer. Of course, when it comes to the pit stop phase, he will lose track position if he pits later, but he will be on the better tyres at the latter stage of the race and the faster tyres. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here for Louis. He's got to manage his pace and not push too hard and make a mistake, but also to make this strategy work, he may want to try and build a gap on the medium runners so they can't undercut him in the pit stop phase, but of course that's going to be difficult with the harder compound, especially at this early phase. So I think for right now, for the next 10 or so laps, I think Louis just got to manage his pace and keep it out of the wall.
I think this is a track as well, if you think about it, that being 6 tenths clear of everybody else is a decent position to be in due to the fact that you can't really overtake around here, and the only place you can overtake is through the tunnel section and in turn 1 as well. So as long as you can keep up the pace and not make too many mistakes, you should be absolutely fine. And Louis got to rely on the other drivers behind him, hang a bit of a squabble just like this, but we are starting to see people go into the pits. I think Ray has picked up damage somewhere, because there's no way you would have pitted this early for the set of the hard tyres. He has... No, it's strategy. That is strategy for the AlphaTauri driver of Ray then. Now, according to my strategy notes, which I had written down somewhere, I thought I had written down somewhere, there we go. The hards can last 30 laps. Now, we got more than 30 laps to go of this Grand Prix, so Ray's probably hoping for a safety car, but if you've league raced around here, and I'm sure a lot of you that are watching have done so, safety cars only come out around Monaco if you put it on increased. If you have it on standard, it hardly comes out at all. So, yeah. I don't know what Ray was thinking of at the moment. Maybe he hasn't realised that fact yet, but if it does work, fair play. If it doesn't, then he's got a lot of work to do. And don't forget, on this game, the hard tyres take a long time to warm up, so he's going to struggle with the tyre temps and lose even more time to the guys around him. So we'll see the gap start to increase even more to the warp. So maybe he's done the wrong thing of potentially pitting now as well. Louis bought the gap even more, about 7 tenths now, so he's finding a bit more pace. So there's maybe some laps where he was pushing and some laps he was not, as Tom is trying to do all he can to keep Legend behind him at the moment. We also got Frankie, who's done exactly the same thing, who's also gone onto the hard compounded tyres as well. We saw how Ray was losing a bit of time, so I'm a bit baffled as to why Frankie has done the same thing, maybe. I don't know, but these drivers know about strategy than I do, and also the drivers have got to keep an eye on the pit lane exit. If they cut it, even by a small margin, they will get a time penalty. We saw that in at PSGL PCF1 last season, or season before. We saw someone get penalised for that same thing, and they got a 5-second penalty, and they lost their first ever PSGL PCF1 win. They eventually got the win in another track, but it would have been amazing if they got it around Monaco. But yeah, that's just something to keep an eye on, and I'm sure the other drivers will be keeping an eye on as well, as Chiquita is now out of this race.
Yeah, Chiquita out of the race as Legend now into the pit lane here for an early pit stop as well. So these are all strategy calls, clearly thinking they can get these hards to the end, which they should be able to do. But I don't know. I don't know about this strategy call, if in my personal opinion. I feel like because they're pitting so early for a set of hard compound tyres, there's not really going to be that much of a pace difference between these hards and the hards that people started on and the mediums that people started on. So I don't know how much time they're actually going to gain by pitting this early. And of course, the problem as well with pitting onto the hard compound tyres, like you said, is the warm-up. The warm-up takes so long that it's going to take a couple of laps, at least for the hards to get up to temperature. So if you're going to pit this early, you're really running the risk of an overcut, really, around this track, because there's no high-speed sections of this track, it's difficult to warm your tyres up. Everything is so slow speed. So, yeah, I don't really know. I don't understand this call, personally. I don't think this is the right call. I think it's a short-term solution to a long-term problem that isn't going to work in their favour. I think if Legend can hold on to that position later on, fair play, but 30-lap-old hard compound tyres compared to Louis potentially on, what, very, very new medium compound tyres, I don't really see how Legend could potentially have an answer for that, even around a track like this. So yeah, everybody's reacting now to the undercut just so they can keep track position, but I feel like they're reacting in the short term to try and keep the track position, but not thinking about the long-term game. And I understand that it is Monaco and you need track position, but also tyre wear around this track and tyre performance fall off is pretty big. So I don't really know about this call. I think, if anything, all of these drivers pitting off the mediums onto the hards just plays further and further into Louis' hands.
Yeah, exactly, because don't forget, Louis is going to try and stretch those hard tyres for as long as he possibly can, as we got a spin from someone,
Ray.
I believe that was Ray, who just pitted a few laps ago and has got a damaged front wing, so maybe his tyres were not up to temperature too much, so he will have to go into the pit once again. We've got Legend, who's got past Kazizel on much warmer hard tyres up into 11th place, so we're starting to see moves make or shake the grid at this moment in time. But yeah, Louis going to be on mediums later on in the race, and with him pitting onto the mediums, they don't take as long to warm up compared to the hards, so he will be able to get back onto race pace even quicker. Same with Rudy as well, so watch out for those two going into the latter stages of this race. Maybe the hard to medium strategy could be right for them as well, as Marlon comes into the pit, so is Orgiano as well. So I believe the only driver to still pit from the hard mediums to the hard tyres is Nemaya, as Jensen is out of the race and Furtado exactly the same place as we saw, I think, the likes of Tom spin earlier. And I think a lot of people are commenting in the comments that a lot of spins there as well, as Elia. They're in a lot of trouble at the moment. Marlon having a bit of, hold on. A lot of things happening at the moment. Legend's got past Marlon through Casino. Marlon had a bit of a squirm there. Just so much going on in a short space of time, all caused by a retirement, as Ray is now out of the race as well, but he is retired in the pit lane. Jensen's crash, though, has not caused a safety car, so at least people are still able to keep going. It breathes a sigh of relief for the ones who has stayed on the hard tyres since the very start, so that's good news for the likes of Louis, Rudy, Nando, Brock and the Warp, who are potentially doing a hard to medium strategy. Will we see someone be very brave and go on to potentially the soft compounded tyres?
It's definitely potential for it, especially someone at the front of the field, but I think the medium tyre is just the safer bet around this track with tyre heating and stuff like that, as Nawalp is the first driver to pick up a track limits time penalty in this race. You could see a couple of those. There's a few corners where you are going to pick up those kind of penalties if you're taking liberties, so that's one thing to note. One thing to note in that whole pit stop phase, Marlon's overcut Asacombe and Kazizel by staying out a little bit longer, fastest up the race from Tom that time around. But yeah, Marlon's gained 2 places by staying out 2 laps longer, so that's interesting. Marlon now into, if Louis were to pit now, a net P4, I would say, for Marlon, when he was a net P6 before the pit stop phase. So good choice there for Marlon to stay out a couple of laps longer and gain track position while other drivers were heating their tyres up. One thing to note as well, Tom fastest lap of the race, but that fastest lap of the race was only about half a second faster than Louis. That is not that much faster. And the problem now for the likes of Tom and Legend is they're all going to catch these hard runners at the back of the field, not running at the same pace as the front runners who have not pitted yet. And the likes of Brock and Nawalp, who have not been on pace at all tonight, they've really struggled around this track. They're in no obligation to move out of the way for any of these drivers. They are racing full position just as much as these drivers, and if they can hold these drivers up, that will cause mistakes from other drivers. They may have to pit for front wing damage, and it could potentially help them later on in the race when they pit for the medium compound tyres, as Brock is drifting out of Raskas just to prove the point that he's struggling so much. So as much as Brock and Nawalp aren't really a factor in this race for maybe a considerable result, they are going to have a massive impact on the likes of Tom and Legend later on in this race, because they're catching them at, well, about 7 or 8 tenths of a second a lap. They'll be on the back of this train in a lap and a half, 2 laps time. Then they're going to have to make on-track overtakes to make this strategy work, and I don't really see that happening. Even with that big of a pace difference, I don't see where Tom and Legend and Marlon and Kazizel and all of those drivers are going to pass Nawalp and Brock on track cleanly without making a mistake. So yeah, I feel like in the, like I said earlier on, they kind of reacted to a short-term problem in track position, and in doing so, they've not really thought that much ahead, and now they're potentially going to get stuck in a lot of traffic. And the one driver who could really benefit from that later on, along with the hard runners, of course, is Nemaya, the only driver that stayed out on that set of medium compound tyres. He could massively benefit as the rest of the hard runners get held up, and he maybe, like his Red Bull teammate, could overcut some drivers here.
Yeah, I think we saw the likes of obviously Senna and Mansell battling. I think it was 1992 as well, and it didn't matter how damaged the car was, or how what tyre you were on as well. It did depend on track position at the end of the day. So I think that's what the drivers have got to think about going into this as well. And there could be safety cars that could come into play as well. So, and Louis is just setting consistent after consistent laps, and even the Maya is not even catching up as well. And maybe it's one thing on catching up to a driver, there's another thing of passing a driver, as Rowan has now become the 5th driver to retire, and he's also in the pit lane. So that's both Aston Martin drivers now out of the session. They're currently sitting 3rd in the standings, in the constructor standings, and I believe we have obviously Ascombe still in this race, but he's not in the point yet as well. We've got the likes of obviously Alpine that want to score well as well, and if Louis scores well as well, that could be a big day for Alpine in the Constructors' Championship. So not good news for Aston Martin at all with their hunt for Constructors' glory, as Maya, after 13 laps, is pitting in the lap that we were expecting drivers to come into the pit lane. So his tyres are going to be hunky-dory, and going in out of the pits onto the hard tyres, albeit it'll take a long time to warm up, but you'll have a better track position because he was able to set more consistent laps on a softer tyre and much warmer tyres as well. So we'll see what he does coming out of the pit lane. He can't cut it. He seems to be fine with the pit lane exit, so no penalties there. And he comes down in 12th position, but he's still got a lot of traffic to get past as well. But yeah, Tom looks like he's a benefit of all this, but we'll see if the extra tyre when the Maya's got would benefit him in the long run, or it wouldn't. But we'll have to wait and see. In the short term, no, but in the long term, it could play huge. See how his race is going to go. And we've already seen 2 drivers get penalties already, but although they haven't pitted, the likes of Brock and the Warp, and the likes of Frankie as well, he's also got a penalty, and he also pitted, so that can make or break a race as well. And now we're starting to see the likes of Tom and Legend catch up in the walk now, the traffic, and again, they don't have to move out the way for the likes of Tom and Legend, and that's going to make things very spicy. We saw that in F2 a few seasons ago with Tom. He was caught up in this situation by pitting early, and he got caught up in an incident, and he ended up retiring in that race. So yeah, he doesn't want to be caught up in the same deja vu moment again. So we'll see what he could do in P6 at the moment with Legend chasing him down, because if Tom doesn't get past the walk, Legend is going to do something about it.
He definitely is, yeah. I'm just keeping an eye on lap times as well, just to see what drivers are doing in and around that train of cars at the moment. And while Tom was in the mid-12s before he caught this train, he's now into the 1 minute 14s in lap, and that is slower than our race leader and slower than Rudy, and even slower than Nando at the moment as well. So Tom is really stuck now in this train, as are all the drivers behind, of course, as well. And even before they'd caught this train, both Tom and Legend were low on ERS, so they'd burnt all of their ERS catching this train, to the point now where they now have to sit behind for a few laps to save up some ERS so that they can attack. So they've kind of put themselves in a really bad spot here. We'll keep an eye on the lap times as we cross the line. It's in fact Louis is going to cross the line now, so I'm going to keep an eye on Louis' lap time as he crosses the line. It's a 1 minute 12.9 from our race leader, which is a pretty decent lap considering it's his 16th lap on that set of tyres. We'll keep that 12.9 in mind to see what Tom is doing, but Tom was about 5 or 6 tenths of a second a lap faster than Louis before he caught this train. He already lost over a second nearly on the previous lap to our race leader, and a 12.9 this time around to Tom, who did a 13.5, is another 6 tenths slower on fresher tyres. So yeah, this is not working out, and still Tom can't find a way through on Nawarp. Nawarp has got enough ERS in his back pocket, and he's just about keeping within DRS range of Brock in front, so he's not really under any threat. As now Legend and Marlon are side by side, and Marlon's managed to go round the outside at the top of the hill of Legend and get a move done on the Ferrari. I'm annoyed. I only caught the end of that, but that is a lovely move from the Red Bull driver, who's now put himself up into a net podium contention with that move. And I was going to suggest this earlier on. I think Legend's got some sort of minor front wing damage on that car, because he is struggling to keep up with Tom. And now that Marlon is through, he is now struggling to keep up with Marlon in the middle part of the lap. So all was Tom and Warp trying to go side by side. Tom's going to force Nawarp off the road. I think Nawarp is fully entitled to keep that position, but he got a penalty, I think, for driving off the track. So Tom gets the move done, but I would not be surprised if a penalty comes of that, as Marlon is now through as well. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a penalty coming from that, because that was a late dive from Tom that was never going to work, and in fact, it's actually not paid. Oh, because he's not going to do a double overtake at Raskas. He's going to pull it off, and he's made contact on the outside of Antinoj as well. Legend's in all of this. Asacombe trying to find a way through. Namaya's in this. Ogiano's in this as well. It's getting a bit chaotic now as they try and work their way through the traffic. Legend is plummeting down the field. The warp as well on those older tyres, but yeah, that was a crazy couple of corners there, and Tom has managed to get through unscathed as well as Marlon. Kazizel's now through into a net P4, but while all of this is happening, it is still playing into the hands of our net race leader, Louis.
Yep, it is. I wonder, as Luke Etheridge just very kindly pointed out in the chat, I wonder if he's following in the footsteps of Matthew Alder back in season 30, where he went so long on the Saab, but I believe it was the hard compounded tyres. He went so long on the Saab tyres, and he went on to pull off a strategic masterclass. I remember watching that race, and he did ever so well in that race. So I wonder if Louis is going to try and follow in the footsteps. No, he's not. I spoke too soon. He's going into the pits, and he's going on to a set of mediums. So he's not going to do the Matthew Alden masterclass I thought he was going to do, but he's going to be on fresh mediums for the rest of the race, and he's going to try and prove the other drivers wrong.
Ahead of Tom.
As Tom as well is near the likes of Brock as well. Brock needs to move out the way as Tom gets past, and Louis is ahead of Tom by a bit more of where he was last time as well, which shows staying out longer on a set of the hard tyres for Louis really did him wonders, and he's going to be faster on the set of the medium tyres as well. We've got Eliadas now out of the race. He's also on a casualty to retire on the pit lane. The Warp has also followed Louis in, it looked like. He's going to go on a set of mediums, but he's dropped down into 14th place. So that just leaves Rudy and Nando to come into the pits now. We're going to keep an eye on what Rudy does. Will Rudy do what Louis did in pit this lap? Because he really has to, really, to make sure he can get into where he was around 8th, 9th place. We'll see where he is in relation to Orgiano and Legend and Asco, because they're their main rivals right now. Don't forget there were a major position changes since obviously the start of the race, so things could change in that respect as well. Maybe Rudy could potentially go onto a set of soft tyres for the end, but again, the softs don't tend to last very long around it. Nando is in. He's going to go onto a set of mediums, I expect. So yeah, that just leaves Rudy, the only driver yet to make a mandatory pit stop.
Yeah, Rudy the only one. I think Rudy is going to wait for Brock to pit and then pit after Brock, because Brock is the next driver who's going to be holding up these drivers that he will be factoring into later on. So I think that is what Rudy is keeping an eye on, is keeping an eye on that second Mercedes and what they do. I think the second Brock pits, Rudy will react, because he knows that all those on the fresher hards will be released and have clean air to fight. So that is what he's looking at. If Rudy pits now, by the way, he will come out ahead of Legend. So Rudy at the moment is looking very good in this race to pick up some solid points, especially ahead of some of his championship rivals, of course. None of his championship rivals are really having that great of a race. Rowan's out of the race entirely. For the second race in a row, Rowan will not be scoring any points. Legend's not having a good race at all. He's dropping down the field a lot at the moment. And now Asacombe and Namaya and even Frankie are on the back of this train now. Frankie's been in relative obscurity for this whole race and has now caught this train. And here comes Asacombe potentially looking for a move on Legend into the Nouvelle chicane, but he's not quite close enough. But you can see Legend misses the corner and picks up a time penalty in the process, and Asacombe's going to maybe think about a move into Tabac. Not quite close enough, but you can tell Legend is struggling with some sort of damage, and he's just going to plummet through the field now, and potentially Legend may not score any points. You would say he was the favourite coming into tonight's race, and it's looking like Legend is on the brink of not scoring any points. So it's not been a great race at all for the Ferrari driver, as Louis sets the fastest lap of the race. Louis was 2.5 seconds ahead of Tom when he came out the pits. He's now 5 seconds ahead. Louis is so fast, and that is just the benefit of a fresh set of medium compound tyres. They're just so much more competitive, and because he's got such an advantage, he doesn't actually need to push that much. He can just play it quite safe, and he'll have this race win in the bag. He doesn't need to push that hard at all, but the pace of the medium compound tyres is just so much better. And yeah, I was just looking through the chat as well. I've seen that the big man himself, Connor, talking about how Louis was too fast regardless. I think, yeah, Louis looked like the favourite coming into this race, even no matter what strategy who was on. But I think he's played a blinder, and in that starting on the hards has been the absolute correct choice, I think, for this race. Starting on the hards was definitely the best choice, and Louis proved it. And I think Rudy potentially is going to prove it in a few laps' time as well, as drivers still struggle to get past Legend. Legend's now 5 seconds behind his teammate and is just plummeting through the field.
That's
Assecomb's
okay.
going to get the move done. Yeah, going to get down the inside of to back. That time around, Legend can't defend it. Assecomb's through. And if I were Legend, I think at this point you may as well just pick for a new front wing.
Yeah, I think if you're losing time just by being stuck in this train, yeah, I would pick, because you're losing so much downforce. You will have an extra set of mediums anyway, and it'll be fresh to the end of the Grand Prix. So yeah, mediums for Legend. He's going to drop to the back. He's going to lose out on some decent points, unfortunately. And yeah, it does confirm what you were expecting all along. Yeah, a damaged front wing, even if it was minor, as service comes in as well. He's been on those mediums for 19 laps. Fair play to him, but I didn't think it will last that long. He goes on to another set of mediums. I believe he did start on the hards, don't forget, so you can do hard, medium if you want to, but he's going to lose so much more time. But look at the rate that Louis is catching up to Rudy right now, at a rate of knots. It was around about 9 seconds a lap ago. It was now about 7 seconds, so Rudy's got to get a move on, but I guess he wants to be on the freshest tyre possible, and he does get a move on. He's seeing the gap come down even more, so he's going to come in to the pit lane, onto the mediums, till the end of the race. There he goes, because he saw Brock came in, so Rudy had to react to get the best possible track position as well. So we'll see where Rudy ends up in relation to everybody else then. Obviously, he's not going to be in front of certain drivers, because he obviously qualified lower, but with the guys battling like this, he could gain quite significantly as he comes out of the pit lane. He gained a lot. He came, pretty much when everyone else pitted, he was 9th. He's now 5th. So with him staying out and him going from the hard to the medium tyres, he's also another driver, like Louis, to have benefited from this. But he's going to have the danger of Orgiano in his mirrors trying to get past him on much warmer tyres. But he's going to have the benefit in a lap's time, so he's really got to try and defend for his life in the next couple of laps, so he should be absolutely fine. So the moral of the story is, hard to medium's definitely better, because on both occasions, both drivers have gained massively.
Yeah, they really have. That's the point about Monaco, isn't it? You try so hard to try and get the best track position for later on in the race that you actually forget about the present. And in the present, you forget about the track position you have at that very point in time. And the track position that Tom ended up in meant he was just stuck in traffic, and that traffic cost him big time. It ended up being behind Louis on the track after Louis' pit stop. He may have still lost to Louis on raw pace, but he could have been ahead of Louis coming out of the pit lane, and that would have been something he would have had in his back pocket. He could have used that track position to defend, but because he went for the early track position and not thought about the race maybe 20 laps in advance, he's now stuck down in second with not really a chance in hell of beating Louis in this race unless Louis crashes out. So yeah, it's still a solid race so far from Tom in second place, but yeah, just wrong strategy call. It's always been the case. Like I say, so earlier on, mentioned in the chat earlier on, we saw a masterclass for Matthew Older in this race in season 30, where he went long in the first strategy, kept out of everybody's way, was in his own racetrack, and just used the track position to his advantage. And that is again exactly what Louis and Rudy have done in this race. And look at Rudy already now onto the back of Gazizzle trying to make a move for P4. So this is going to be the difficult part for Rudy, is making the clean overtakes, but he's given himself such a tyre advantage that the second he gets anywhere near or alongside, Gazizzle's really not going to have anything to fight with. So if he can just get a good run out of one of these corners on the back of this Alpine, he should easily be through. And even around a track where he's said many times before in the interview booth that we've spoken to him that Monaco is not a track that he enjoys, it's not a track he thinks he can be good at. He has played it smart, he's played the long game, and as everybody else has made mistakes and chosen the wrong strategy, he's gone the right way and done something different, and it's played in his favour. He's almost looking for a move into Sandevot. He's not going to take the risk though, and he doesn't need to take the risk, because at the moment he would still be extending his championship lead.
Yeah, and sometimes consistency is a lot more key than trying to go for wins or podiums at the end of the day as well. And to be honest, a top 5 will still be a decent result, because his nearest rivals are not doing so well. And obviously the one who's going to take the win is a driver that has not scored any points this season. The likes of Legend not scoring any points. Rowan has retired from the race. Gazizzle is nearest challenger, and he's got to get past him ASAP. But again, the gap is massive. No matter what Gazizzle does to Rudy, or what Rudy does to Gazizzle, then it doesn't do much in terms of championship wise. So they're just going to have a little bit of fun, but they can't afford to get in a squabble, because Orgiano can come along and say, you know what, I had a very good result in Canada, I can repeat that and get a good result in Monaco as well. And who would have thought that he would have had 2 good race wins in a row? Nando is out of the race. That is also through to... Oh, that's after the tunnel section. That is on the right-hand side. Again, no safety car. That strongly backs my theory that pretty much, unless you put the safety car on increased, the likelihood of a safety car coming out on this game around Monaco in this tier is second to none. Even on increased, we had some damaged cars and we hardly had any safety cars. As Rudy gets past Kazizzle, heading towards Casino section, he finally got the move done. Nice move done he did, and he's now up into 4th place, 1 place below where he would have wanted, but if he gets a podium, that will solidify his consistency this season, and he's already closing the gap by a margin. As Legend is out of the race! Legend is out of the race, he's retiring the pit lane, and that is the first race where he has not scored any points. What a shame for the man who is currently P2 in the championship, but to be honest, the only person that could be a threat for him in the championship now is currently sitting in 5th, and that's Kazizzle.
Yeah, I don't really know what's happened with Legend this season. We've mentioned it so many times already that he came into this season as the clear championship favourite, having had such a good run at the end of the previous season, but it's just not materialised this season. For some reason, the pace that he had at the end of the previous season, and that he had in the Cross Cup, of course, as well, just hasn't really translated into this season so far. He's got 2 podium finishes, but he's never looked like he's going to win a race. The only race he really looked like he could have won was Bahrain, but of course he got involved in an accident. So other than that, he's not looked close to a win this season, and it's very bizarre to see that for Legend. We've expected so much more of him, and it's just not materialised. And this retirement as well solidifies that. We're now down to 12 drivers only, and the majority of those drivers are just drivers that were given up in the pit lane, unfortunately. Shane Fernando as well. That's a fairly simple error to make. He just clipped the wall on the exit of the Nouvelle chicane, the little bit that sticks out on the left-hand side, and that's obviously terminally damaged his car. But he was running in the points again, and that would have been his 3rd points finish in a row. He was just starting to build a bit of momentum and get some solid results in, but unfortunately that has now slipped away, and that is an opportunity if there is another retirement for Nawalk potentially to get their first point score of the season if someone in front retires. So yeah, plenty still to go on. We've only got 11 laps of this race left. This race is for a Monaco Grand Prix, this race has absolutely flown by so far, and Louis leads the way now by 13.5 seconds. That is what a massive lead Louis has had in this race, and Tom is now being caught by Marlon, who is also being caught by Rudy. So if Rudy can get through on the Red Bull, Rudy does still have a genuine shot of finishing second in this race.
I think for everybody apart from Louis, it's a battle for finishing second, and they're going to hope that Louis makes a mistake. But I pray to God, and I hope I haven't jinxed on anything. We always like to see underdogs do well and win the race, and I witnessed it myself when I was racing in a race as well. We had someone came out of nowhere. He was bottom all season, and it was around Austria. He went on to win that race as well. We're seeing exactly the same thing here, and he's increased the gap by another second as well. He's absolutely flying, and Tom has got one thing to watch. He knows that P1's out the window, so he's just got to fight for being best of the rest, being second, and he will close up in the championship if he stays where he is, because he'll be ahead of Facecam, he'll be ahead of Kazizzle and Rowan and Legend, believe it or not, as well. He obviously he's got Rudy to worry about as well, so that's going to be an interesting fight heading towards the end of this race. And by the way, whilst we hit this time of the race, it'll be a good time to mention our title sponsor, GT Mega. It is coming up to Christmas, and I know quite a few of you are looking for a perfect Christmas gift, so why not give a gift of a GT Mega chair, where you could use 5% off GT Mega products by using the code PSGL at checkout by clicking the link in the description. And the top tier on the PlayStation will get, the champion will get a £150 gift voucher for GT Mega to use whatever they please. They can get a cockpit or whatever they can at that price as well. I think it's mainly the chairs they can get at that price, but you never know. And I think the top PC tiers as well also get that luxury as well. So plenty of incentives for drivers to do well. But yes, use the discount code at checkout, PSGL, to get 5% off GT Mega products, especially during the run-up to Christmas. So I do recommend you check out our title sponsor. Now, again, Louis has just increased the gap again by another second as well. It's just going to take some miracle for him not to win this race, by the way he's pushing right now. These tyres can go for a little bit longer, than the laps he's on at the moment. So, yeah, that's probably put a few drivers under the bus. You think, maybe I should have stayed longer out on those mediums. But even the Mario is struggling. So, yeah, the Haas just showing they're not the best race tyre towards the end of the Grand Prix, but a brilliant race tyre at the start.
Yeah, they really are. If you've got the track position, we know it's so difficult to overtake. If you've got the track position to be able to hold on to a high spot on a set of hards, you've got to take it. You've got to take that opportunity and go on the better strategy around a track like this. So, yeah, really, really smart choice from Louis. And this is turning into a legend-level domination performance like we saw from him in COTA, of course, last season. This is certainly a domination by some stretch of the imagination. He is so fast. I mean, Louis at the moment is lapping over a second off his personal best, and he's still pulling away by nearly a second a lap of the rest of the field. So he's absolutely flying. And keeping an eye on this battle for second, I don't know what's happened to Tom in recent laps. I don't know if he has just dropped off in pace or he's just backing off a little bit or something, but Marlon and Rudy are now all over the back of this Mercedes driver looking for that second place position. And Marlon, I think, will be desperate to try and get that position because, of course, he finished second last time out in Canada for his first podium in the top division, but unfortunately lost it on a penalty late on. So he'll be desperate to get that first podium and keep it this time around. So hopefully he'll try and stick on to third, hopefully get second. I think for Rudy, I don't think Rudy needs to get any of these podium positions. I think P4 is just fine for what Rudy needs to do championship-wise, and if there's an opportunity to take a podium, he will take it, but we know what Rudy's like. He's not going to take the risk if it's not there. So, yeah, Rudy at the moment sitting comfortably in fourth, and at the moment, I know we're only 5 rounds into the championship, but Rudy's mentioned many a time that a lot of the tracks on this calendar don't suit him and they're not favourites of his, yet he's still picking up brilliant results. And that is a performance of a champion, is picking up results on tracks where you know you are at the best and you know you're potentially not going to do the best. So, yeah, the fact that Rudy's being able to do this multiple times is a really good... It's been a strong start to the season, and Rudy is now really affirming himself at the front of the championship. If he finishes fourth here, his lead in the championship will be over a race wins distance over second place. So, yeah, Rudy looking really strong for this title at the moment.
It tends to be sometimes the drivers that we don't talk about as often at the beginning of a season tend to do well and go unnoticed, like the likes of Rudy, and the ones that we predict to do well, the likes of Legend, has not won races and not leading the championship as well. But yeah, don't forget, Rudy finished, I believe, 3rd place last season in his debut season in the top tier, which I have to say is pretty incredible. And the one who finished ahead of him was Tom, and Tom is not even ahead of Rudy in the championship. So it just goes to show Rudy has found some massive improvement in terms of his racecraft and the ability to improve on his consistency in this game as well. He actually started a race at the opening round this season, which definitely helped. And coming into a game where it was his debut in the top 10, he didn't even go into F2. He went straight from F3 to F1 and delivered to a T. So it just goes to show that no matter what happens, no matter what team, and if you have the skill, if you have the pace to perform in the top level, then he's going to do very, very well. And I don't know how old he is, but if he is older than 16, expect him to be a contender for the challengers in F1 esports in the future, as does a few other drivers as well. And he's just a man who's just delivered week after week, and even if he hasn't had chances to pick up wins, I'm just looking at his results now. He got a 3rd place in Spain, he got a win in Bahrain. The only result where he didn't score as well was in Zandvoort, but again, he still managed to get 4 points in that race. So he's been consistent the whole way through, and the only time every time he's got a podium, he's either been a 3rd place or a win. It's just been absolutely incredible. But I'm sure he wouldn't mind getting 4th place here around this track so he could extend his lead. But we just can't afford to take any risk here, because otherwise that could risk a chance for his championship down the line. And maybe sometimes he could say, oh, Monaco was my downfall of me losing this championship. So maybe just staying behind just to avoid taking that risk. And he's going to probably try and let Marlon and Tom maybe take the risk in front. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see. We're down to 12 drivers anyway. Don't forget the top 10 do score points in PSGL. The P1 gets 16 points, 2nd place, 12 points, 3rd place, 10 points, 4th place, 8 points, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, down to 1 and for 10th position. And every point matters, as we've seen in a lot of PSGL seasons in F1 in the past. And I don't think any one of this bunch of cars in P3, 4 and 5 are able to budge at the moment, and that's allowing Louis to stretch the gap even more. It's almost 20 seconds, Aidan.
It's ridiculous, isn't it, the lead that Louis has. Louis is teetering on the edge of being able to have enough time to pit again. He has got such a lead in this race. It's just astonishing. And he does have the fastest lap of the race as well. So full points. It would be a Grand Slam, wouldn't it, for Louis? Well, not quite, because Rudy led a few laps in the midpoint when they were pitting. But other than that, he's taken pole. He's got the fastest lap. He's winning the race at the moment. The only thing he's not done is led every lap. But he's led every lap.
And drive the day.
And drive of the day, of course. But I think we'll have to give him drive of the day anyway with a race like this. It's such a strong performance. He's led all but 5 laps of this race as Louis, and that was all because Rudy stayed out in the gap between him and in that pitting. So, yeah, it's been such a performance from Louis today, and I don't want to take any shine away, but this is so unlike Louis, because for the first 4 rounds of the season, really, we haven't really spoken about Louis. The only context we've really spoken about Louis this season is when he's been making his odd strategy calls. He's making his odd strategy calls at the back of the field, trying to do something to try and get a point, and none of them have worked. But today, he's been one of only 2 drivers on the right strategy and has made it work, which is sometimes the risk doesn't pay off, which it didn't do in any of the first 4 races. But today, the risk of starting on the hards from pole position played massively into his favour, and it has just been a stellar performance. He's got 4 laps to go when he crosses the line, and it's just a cruise home now. He doesn't need to push. He doesn't need to take any risks. I mean, he can get a penalty if he wants. It's not going to affect his race in any way. So
he can even get a 10-second penalty and still finish in P1.
Yeah, it's just been such a dominant performance. He can really get away with it now. So, yeah, what a performance it has been. And now it's just a case of, does Marlon take the risk and try and get Tom for 2nd position here, or does he just settle for 3rd? It's hard to say for Marlon. I don't really know what he would want to do, because championship-wise for Marlon, of course, he's still really, at the moment, with Rudy running away with things, there's still a fight on at the moment for the places in the top 3 in the standings, of course. Legend and Rowan not scoring today, so they won't be getting any points, because this was behind him on the road. So is Asacombe. Fabi's not here. Tom's just in front of him. Marlon could stand to gain quite a few places in the championship if he can finish 3rd or even 2nd. So Marlon's got a golden opportunity here. If he can get 2nd on the road, to gain maybe 2 or 3 places in the standings. And even with the rough start to the season that Marlon's had with a few mistakes, to be in the top 5 in the championship after the first 5 rounds of the season would be a mega performance for someone moving up from F3. So, yeah, Marlon's done such a good job to the start of the season. He's made too many mistakes. He's admitted that himself. He's made too many mistakes in the opening rounds of the season. But a track where mistakes are prone, he's not put a foot wrong tonight. He's done brilliantly so far. So it's really up to him whether he wants to take the risk and go for 2nd or just settle for 3rd. But if I were Marlon, I would probably maybe just settle for 3rd.
I would as well. He missed out on 3rd due to a penalty he got due to being involved in an incident last week in Canada. So it would be amazing that he just pretty much play it safe at the moment, because it would be sad to lose it on the last few laps where he just worked so hard throughout the entire race. So yeah, I think the top, at least the top 4 will potentially not budge at the moment. Or Giano could potentially get the move done on Cazizzo as well, so we'll keep an eye on that. And just put things into perspective now, guys. Louis is now a full pit stop ahead of Tom. So Louis could potentially go on softs, go for fastest lap, and still come out ahead of Tom. But I don't think you'll want to take the risk because of tyre warm-up and stuff like that. But that's just to put it into perspective of how dominant Louis has been this race. But in terms of the final few laps of this race, will we see some last-minute overtakes? Because we haven't seen many this race so far. It's mainly been after pit stops where we've seen overtakes at this moment in time. And we could see a battle for the final point start to develop in the likes of Nawarp and Frankie as well. Don't forget, Nawarp has not scored a point all season. Wouldn't that be amazing for Nawarp and Louis to get their first point of the season? That would be crazy. I'm just looking at the amount of points. Nawarp won't get points, sadly, because he's on 6 seconds, whereas Frankie's on 3. So scrap my thought on that. But Frankie's been on those tyres for 29 laps. So let's just hope Frankie does not get a punch, because that would be absolutely cruel for Frankie to get a punch at this late stage of the race. We're heading towards lap 38 of 39 so far. And apart from Louis, Marlon has performed very well. Cazizzo as well has flown under the radar, but he's been under pressure from Orgiano for so many laps. He just got to make sure he can break free of DRS in order for Orgiano just to stay behind him. And Asacombe has not had the best of races either, but he's still managing to pick up some points here and there, which could mean anything in terms of like constructors and drivers' points as well. So sometimes you have to have bad races to learn from your mistakes and bounce back and move on to the next one.
Yeah, especially in the case of Facecam, of course, had a race ban, of course, midway through this season, so it's not been a smooth start. Even with the win that he had in Spain for the first round of the season in dominant fashion, since then he's not had the same performance, which is a bit of a shame. He started off so well, and it's just petered off at this midpoint in the season, but still picking up points, like you say, where he can. And Meyer as well, not been able to have the track position in the pace he would have wanted after that crash in qualifying. Where could Meyer have been in this race if he didn't crash in qualifying? Was able to put a better lap in. He had great pace in quali, but it's just kind of been stuck behind his AlphaTauri this whole race, so not really been able to go anywhere. By the way, Louis didn't pit for that soft tyre run. He didn't need to. I've just checked through the race director. He's got the fastest lap of the race on 11.5, and he is the only driver that's got a lap in the 1 minute 11s at the moment, so his fastest lap is over half a second faster than anybody else's fastest lap, pretty much. So it's been a pretty dominant performance from Louis as he enters the final lap of the race. One opportunity now for Marlon really left in this race to get this second position, but he's 4/10 of a second back. It's really going to require a mistake from Tom, and we know what Tom's like. He's not going to put a foot wrong. Rudy, though, is going to try and move potentially on Marlon at the top of the hill at Casino. Is he going to do a Marlon move on Marlon around the outside? He doesn't have the grip. He doesn't have the space. Marlon knew that one was coming. He kind of parked it in the middle of the road. He didn't give Rudy enough space around the outside to complete that move. Fair play for Marlon to defend that one. Rudy's not going to take too much of a risk. He'll settle for fourth. He'll be happy with that. But, yeah. Final sector, I think we just got to go on board with the Alpine and appreciate what an incredible drive this has been.
Yeah, this has been astonishing. This reminds me of many greats in PSGL that's put on dominant performances. The last one, legend, of course, in USA, who put up a dominant performance. But this is a man who has scored 0 points all season. He's been at the bottom of the standings, but today he's not just going to score points, he's going to take his first win in the top tier, 16 points to his name. He's also going to get the fastest lap as well, maximum points in Monaco. Congratulations, he's been faultless from start to finish, and it looks like Tom's going to keep second place, Marlon third, and Rudy fourth position. And what a day for the Alpine team, because Izzo is going to get double points for Alpine in fifth position, the highest performing constructors, I believe, in this race. Orgiano with another solid performance in P6. I'm sure he'll be happy with that. Asako in seventh, the Meyer 8th, Brock managing 2 points, and I believe Frankie will score the final point in this race. Yes, he does. So I do believe that does mean the Warp will be now the only driver that is full time to not score a point, due to the fact that Louis has now scored points in this race. Louis is going to jump quite a lot of people in this championship just because he's had a win and fastest lap. And to put things into perspective, he's even going to jump Fabi in the standings.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? Considering Fabi had such a strong start to the season. In fact, Louis is going to jump. If we're looking at the standings right now, Louis is currently 20th. Yeah, he's going to jump the lot of them, isn't he? He's currently 23rd in the standings coming into this race with no points on the board. If my calculations are correct, he's going to jump to about 8th. Potentially 8th or 9th. It's dependent on how many points Orgiano scored. I think Orgiano picked up 5, so I think he may jump Orgiano as well. So yeah, that is incredible. Absolutely incredible that he's going to go from 23rd and no points to midway through the top 10. So he's now going to have to try and keep that performance up to hold on to that top 10 for the rest of the season. But yeah, what a performance. We said that Monaco's going to bring out some surprise results. I don't think I was quite expecting something quite like that. That was incredible. I was maybe expecting a podium maybe here or there for someone like Fabi or someone like that who's fast, or maybe a win for someone like Ray, like you mentioned earlier on, but a complete domination from start to finish by Louis, and winning by nearly a pit stop's distance from pole position is beyond what I thought could happen tonight. That is such an incredible performance from Louis.
That is why I like moments like this in PSGL. I always like, in any league racing, an underdog to come out of the gates and dominate like that, win a race. It's just amazing. Can we have more moments like that this season? I hope we could see more first-time winners in a top tier, even in PSGL. That will just be crazy. So that'll be great for Louis' confidence, I have to say, and I think he could definitely put the practice in. And no matter how many practice he put for Monaco, we got to make sure he puts the same for all the other tracks, to be honest. So we got Louis, Tom, Marlon, Rudy, Kazizor, Gianna, Asako, and Namaya, Brock, Frankie on top 10. The Warp just missed out on points with service as well, but your retirements, most of them being pit lane retirements, are Legend, Nando, I believe retired on, I think with a spin, Elliot, Rowan, Ray, Jensen, Jaquita, and Markados were your retirements, unfortunately. But, yeah, well, we got to give our driver of the day to, Louis, because he definitely deserved that.
He definitely did, yeah. There's not really anybody else I think you can give that to. I don't think anybody's in the question. That was such an incredible performance from Louis to win the race like that. And yeah, masterful strategy call, brilliant driving, didn't put a foot wrong, great qualifying. Probably the single best performance I think we can say from a single driver so far this season by quite a way. I would say that is probably the single best performance we've seen from anybody so far this season. That is absolutely brilliant, and yeah, like you say, I hope we see more of this Louis for the rest of the season, because it's been such a poor start for the first 4 rounds. I really hope we get to see more of this Louis going forwards, because we saw a little bit at the start of the previous season, of course, with that Austria race where he was fighting in the top 5 with the likes of people like Danerka and all that for podium positions, and then it kind of petered out as the season got on, and of course he had picked up a 3-race ban as well, of course, midway through last season, and he didn't look the same once he came back from that. But this is a proper return to form for Louis, and yeah, hopefully we can see a lot more of this going forwards.
Yeah, I hope you're listening, Louis, because we probably put too much pressure on Louis, but yeah, absolutely incredible performance, and I'm sure everyone in the chat can agree that he is definitely our driver of the day as well, and hopefully he can deliver when we head to Silverstone next week, which I believe you won't be here for, is that right? Or are you going to be here next week? I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm not here next week, unfortunately. I will be on a plane whilst this race is going on. So, yeah, I will not be here, sadly, which is a bit of a shame. So, we always get our one obligatory race that we miss at some point, don't we? It happens every season. But, yeah, unfortunately won't be here for the first race before the Christmas break. So, yeah, hopefully Silverstone, I think Silverstone's always a good race. But, yeah, I'm excited to see what happens at Silverstone, see what the result will be as well. I'll be watching that when I get back on the Tuesday morning. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing that one, watching that one back.
Yeah, and we'll get one of our F2 commentators to come and join us as well. So that could be very exciting. Do we have anyone waiting in the interview room to be interviewed?
We do. We have our second and third place finishers. So I will just drag Tom in now so we can have a chat with our second place finisher.
I'll let you do it so I can rest my voice.
Yeah, I'll let you rest your voice, of course. We'll come back to you a little bit and ask you a few questions. But Tom is into the commentary booth with us now, our second place finisher for today. So before we get into the questions, Tom, can you hear us?
Hello? We did.
Hello. Brilliant stuff. Well, yeah, all good on our end. I think, yeah, all good. So congratulations on a second place finish, Tom. Really solid performance from you and a good return to form as well. Of course, didn't have, of course, the best of races last time out in Canada. So talk us through your race from your perspective.
Well, it was quite a boring one. You know, going into turn 1, going into the start of the race, I was quite happy to just sit where I was and try and hold my position. And so I did that, but then I realised that Louis was on hards, so I definitely should have been more aggressive. But yeah, like that definitely screwed me over, because he was there was nowhere I could get past, and to be honest, I didn't really have the pace to get past him. He was a bit faster than me, and he had a good quality lap as well. And then yeah. I knew that if you pit like a lap after someone, then they can't get an undercut on you because of the cold tyres. So I just did that, pitted the lap after, and then came out ahead of Legend, and it was pretty much just me driving on my own. Now I got stuck behind Now, which probably is what helped Louis to like stay in front of me or come out in front of me. And if he would have came out behind our train, it would have been a lot more of an exciting race. But obviously, when he came out ahead of us on the mediums, he was just flying away because we pitted so early onto our hards. It was kind of do or die whether we come out ahead of him or not. But yeah, my move on Now was a bit like he was defending like there was not much I could do other than go down his inside. At that chicane, if you're on the outside, you should just back out. But he didn't, and then overtook me off the track. I had to nearly, luckily, he got an illegal overtake from the game and gave it back to me. But yeah, and then Brock team orders, and it was just me making sure Marlon didn't overtake me. So, because I just stopped focusing on Louis because he was a bit gone. I just focused on not getting damaged, not getting 2 warnings, and keeping the RS in case Marlon went for it, and he didn't. So it was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, pretty straightforward race in the end for yourself. Speaking about strategy, of course, you mentioned that you kind of saw after the race had started that Louis had gone for the hard compound tyres. Did it cross your mind to start on the hard compound tyres, or was it always the plan for you to start on the mediums?
No, to be honest, even if I'd have started on hards, Legend definitely would have noticed and been more aggressive like I should have been. But last time I raced around Monaco, I got pole, and I was well on for the race win, but like I was too aggressive with a move on like a back marker, and I got damaged and lost it. So I was PTSD the whole race. I was proper scared of going for overtakes. So, and I knew it, like Legend would have definitely gone for an overtake if I was on the hards, because he was pushing me. He was like rear-ending me around the hairpin at multiple laps, like even on when I was on mediums. So yeah, I thought hards definitely wasn't the option for me, but Louis obviously had good pace and could do it.
Yeah, that played even more to his favour, as we saw, of course. And looking at the championship now, of course, a lot of drivers in front of you in the championship didn't score today. Legend and Rowan, of course, not picking up any points because Azul and Asakone both finishing behind you. So you're going to gain quite a few places championship-wise. How are you feeling about the championship going forwards? We're almost at the halfway point now. So how are you feeling going forwards? Do you think you can maybe go for an assault on the championship lead, or do you think it's more about trying to consolidate a position maybe in second for the second season in a row?
Well, I'm definitely going to go for the championship. I'm like really disappointed in where I am in the championship so far, because like Canada, my pace was good, and then like just the wet college caught me off guard, and then I don't know what else. Oh yeah, and then I got rear-ended by Louis in that race, and obviously Louis got that pen for this week, and I think he got a 5-second pen, but obviously because he won by 20 seconds, that doesn't matter. And then so I definitely wanted to be higher. Rudy's like, he's so consistently scoring points, like who was Philip Wouters last season, which is like it's going to be hard to catch up to, but I'm definitely going to try my best and do more practice than I have been doing, which I did this week, and it paid off.
Yeah, that sounds good and exciting for us going forwards in the championship. Jess, have you got anything you'd like to ask?
Yeah, heading into the final race before the Christmas break, heading into next week, what are your aims going into that final race to hopefully have a good momentum going into 2023? Because I'm sure that will be very crucial to make sure you have a better run the rest of the season.
Well, I think it's Silverstone, so it's my home
it is.
Grand Prix. I know my quali pace isn't like insane, but I will try and do my best there, obviously, and hopefully get a good result, and then hopefully that'll put me close to the Championship League going to Christmas. But I don't think it matters. I think there's still a long way to go in the season, so anything can happen. But yeah.
That is my question.
And brilliant stuff. Well, thank you so much again for joining us, Tom, and congratulations on your second podium finish of the season. We'll let you head off and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Brilliant stuff. So we shall move on to our third place finisher, Marlon, who I believe is waiting for us ever so patiently in the waiting room. So we will just drag in Marlon for us right now. Hopefully he can hear us. Marlon, are you there and can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Brilliant stuff. Well, congratulations, Marlon. Second week in a row, and you are in the commentary box for a second week once again. But this time around, by the looks of things, you'll hopefully be able to keep your podium, which is great to see. Congratulations. And how are you feeling after that race?
Qualifying didn't went well because my PB was in 8.6, and I did a 0.0, and that was not what I wanted. But still, P4 was quite decent, I think. At the start, Chazuka, I can't pronounce the name right. Kaziza or something.
Yeah. Kazizel, yeah.
Yeah. He we had a little bit of no damage, luckily, and then I went on to my English is so bad, I apologize.
That's all right.
Yeah, I just drove my race and then pitted on lap 10, I think. Overtook me, sorry, and then just keep the front wing clean, and in the end P3. I'm pretty happy with that, and hopefully I can keep that this time.
Yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, you can keep the podium this time around. We saw at the end of the race, you were quite close to the back of Tom for the final stint of that race. Do you think you could have got second, or do you think it was too much of a risk to go for an overtake?
Too much of a risk, I think, because he had always a good exit, and I didn't want to risk it, and I just wanted that P3 and some points on the board finally, because the first 4 race was not what I wanted with the points a bit. I expected a bit more, and I'm just happy that I maybe keep that this time.
Yeah, excited to see, and like you say, you're starting to build a bit of momentum now with the points that you're scoring. So what's your plan going forward for the championship as we enter the second half of the season? Do you think you can fight for maybe a top 3 spot in the championship in your first season in F1?
Yeah, why not? I mean, I think I've got the pace to do that, but I have to get my consistency a bit better with the spins, like in the last 4 races. It was finally a race where I didn't spin or didn't spun, and finally a good race without a mistake. And I hope I can take that momentum into next week again. And
fingers crossed for you for next week. Jess, have you got anything you'd like to ask?
Well, I have to say, going into the final stages of this championship, I know you where you are in the championship, you may not have the best chance of everybody else, but do you think you could still salvage maybe a potential top 3 maybe in the championship with the likes of obviously Rowan and Fabine not scoring today?
I think so, because the last race went really good with my pace. Like I said, just my consistency wasn't there. And if I keep scoring like that, maybe I can get a top 3. But it will be tough, of course, because the grid is so stacked. And I just hope that I can get as much points as possible.
No worries, massive congratulations on another good result, and hopefully you get to keep the podium this time.
Yeah, I hope so, and thanks for comms.
No worries.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you very much, Marlon. Thanks for joining us again for the second week in a row, and I believe our race winner is now waiting for us as well in the waiting room, so I will drag him in. And Jess, do you want to lead I'll give you the opportunity to lead for our race winner, of course. He's the special one, of course, tonight, so I'll let you be the head for this one.
Thank you. So the man who started with no points coming into this round is now managing to get 17 points with a win on the fastest lap. It is Louis. Louis, can you hear us?
Hola, hello.
Hello, we can hear you loud and we can hear you loud and clear. You're fine. First of all, a massive congratulations on a win out of nowhere, but by 20 seconds as well, full pit start. Coming into Monaco, did you think it was going to happen today, that you were going to do lights to flag victory?
Thank you. I am very happy for my first win in PSGL.
Oh, altogether?
Sorry, I'm not... Sorry, no speak very good English.
No, it's all right. Your first win in all the tiers?
What? Sorry.
So you've never won in sorry, you never won in PSGL before. Oh, this interview's not going well. Sorry.
Yes, I am very, very happy. My place is very good in Monaco in my best luck on the game, and I am very happy.
Awesome. Obviously, coming into Monaco as well. Why do you think Monaco is just such a great track as well? Is it because you find it thrilling? Do you feel like you make more less mistakes, or do you think it's just a nice track in general?
Yes. So sorry, no understand. Yes. Sorry. Very sorry.
No worries on that front. I believe it's your first interview with us anyway, so completely understandable. I'm trying to think of a question now that's not too complicated for you. That's going to be quite difficult. Whilst I think of a question, Aidan, do you have any questions?
Hi, Louis. Yeah, congratulations on your first win. I guess a question from me is, looking forward to the next races, do you think you can win again, or are you just trying to pick up points where you can?
Thanks for. And next week, I want to win this race, and I want to win championships and this season. And yes, I want to win last week, next week. Sorry.
Yeah, that's definitely good. Going into Silverstone, it'll be great to see you potentially fight again. Jess, if you managed to think of another question?
I think you kind of nipped the question I was going to ask, so no.
That's okay. Well, fair play. I think we'll probably end it there then, I guess.
Yeah, we may as well. And I'd just like to say again, congratulations, Louis, and celebrate with your champagne, and we'll let you enjoy the rest of your evening. Congratulations, our first time race winner in PSGL and in the top tier, Louis. Well done.
Thanks.
So that wraps up the end of the F1 stream for this evening and for all the Monaco streams in PSGL this week. Now, don't forget, no PC streams this week. They're on their break week due to F1 Esports, the finale. That's going to be exciting, but there's no break week for us. We'll be back next week at around next week for the British Grand Prix, and it will be myself and Evan taking you through the action, just being confirmed whilst we were doing the interview. So there we go. You heard it off the press here first. So British Grand Prix, home Grand Prix for many drivers as well. Plenty of opportunities for the likes of Tom, Legend, to step up a little bit. Maybe Rudy can get another win of the season. Can Louis make it 2 for 2 potentially? We'll have to wait and see. But before we go, Aidan, any final thoughts?
I think just a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everybody at PSGL for me. Of course, I won't be here next week for the final race before the Christmas break, which is a bit of a shame. So to everybody watching, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, or happy holidays to whatever you celebrate. And yeah, looking forward to watching the stream next week back and seeing how Silverstone goes. And yeah, the championship is looking very exciting for the second half of the season, definitely. So a lot of storylines that we can keep track on for the rest of the season. So yeah, it's looking pretty exciting.
Yep, it is as well. And before we go, make sure you leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're a decent milestone as well, but I'm sure we want to get higher subscribers as well. Also, make sure you follow us on Twitter and Instagram at PremierSimGL. Also, check out our sponsor, our title sponsor, GT Omega, where you can get 5% off GT Omega products by using the code PSGL at checkout. Plenty of time before Christmas, a perfect Christmas present as well, if you're stuck for Christmas gifts as well. And they gave us some lovely GT Omega chairs, which are very comfy, by the way. So thank you to them. And yeah, that is it for myself and Aidan. We'll see you all next week, same time, 8 PM UK time, for the British Grand Prix. Again, no PC stream as I mentioned, so the PSGs will be kicking off as normal on Sunday. So see you soon, have a good evening, and goodbye.
This broadcast was brought to you by GT Omega, proudly supporting PSGL.